Okay, guys, we are ready to begin. Okay, so we are starting a new topic today. We went through a couple of our more controversial topics in Berachot. Not necessarily controversial, we'll say difficult. And now we are starting a new topic, which is called Kedima Bibrachot, and the Din of Ikar and Tafel. So let's understand what these terms mean. So, Kedima Bibrachot means which item comes first. So we touched on it a little bit. We actually have the first sources or from a previous sheet that we had on this new sheet. And it really crosses over with the crux that we're going to focus on is the din of Aikar and Tafel, the main part of a dish and the secondary part of a dish. Aikar means main, Tafel means secondary. So we have the main part of a dish and the secondary part of a dish. So a meaning of a cooked item. So we're going to start with that now. What we're going to do is we're first going to do a quick review about the order of berachot. That's what we're going to do first, and then we're gonna slide right into the din, the laws of ikar and tafel. So the first source that I have here, if everybody just gives me anybody who's there, give me a thumbs up that you guys can see the screen share. Great. Thanks, Margie. And thank you, Rini. We appreciate it. So this source, remember, we had this with Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama, where we spoke about what happens if fruits are on the table and they have the same blessing. What do we do? So this, I'm not going to go through this source again, because again, just for brevity, we're going to start again with the Shulchan Aruch. So let's start with the Shulchan Aruch. I'm here in source 2. So source 2 Shulchan Aruch says the following. This is to refresh ourselves, and then we're going to go to the next halakha in Shulchan Aruch. That's going to have a nice hit list of what comes first in different scenarios. So let's start. Shulchan Aruch. This is Orach Haim. That's the first book of Shulchan Aruch. Siman Resh Yod Aleph 211 Seif Aleph. The first halakha. Hayu lefanav mine perot harbeh. Let's say somebody had many fruits in front of them. So Shulchan Aruch tells us the din. Im birchotehem shavot. Let's say they have the same blessing. So I have apples, pear, and grapes. So they're all ha'etz. And veyesh benehem mimin shiv'ah. And they have one of the 7 fruits of Israel, which we said it's really 5 because wheat and barley are the first 2. Those are grains. Right, we have pomegranates, dates, figs, pomegranates, dates, figs, olives, grapes. If any of those are in the plate, so we said in our example they are, right? You have peach, apple, and grapes. Then what do? Makdim min shiv'ah. First, you have to do the min shiv'ah, whichever one was from the fruits of Israel. So if I had apples, peaches, and grapes, you got to go with grapes first. Even though, let's say you're a huge pear fan, if there are pears, you're going for the pears every time. It doesn't make a difference. Or you're a peach fan. Either way, you're gonna have to go if all the blessings are the same, and you have one of the Shivat Haminim, you must do the Shivat Haminim first. What if they're the same, but there aren't one of the 7 species of Israel? For 7 fruits, v'im en benehem imin shivha, then makdim ha'haviv. They all have the blessing of ha'etz. So what should you do? Take the one that you like the most first. You take the one that you like the most, and that's what you're going to do. V'im en birchotehem shavot. What happens if their blessings are not equal? Afilu yesh bahem imin shivha. So that you have kigon snon v'zayit. Right, let's say you have a radish and an olive. So an olive is from the tree, and a radish is from the ground. For Sfaradim, you could just take whichever one you want. So again, when the blessings are not equal, you take whichever one you want first. And some say some say that you got to take which one you want in that case. But again, it's whichever one you want. Now we said we did this last time. What is it? What is called haviv? Hamin sheragil liyot haviv alav. It's what you're normally used to taking first. So if you're always a pear fan, even though now you're in the mood for pineapple because it's pineapple's adama, pear is ha'etz. So you're really in the mood for pineapple. But generally speaking, you do. You're a very big pear person. So even if you're in the mood for pineapple, you have to take the pear. That's what it means to have something that is haviv. So that's basically a little bit of a review. But before we go to the next source, anybody have any questions? Anybody have a question? Feel free to unmute. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, so now we're going to go to Maran. Maran says in the next Se'ifim, right, Resh Yod Aleph. So in the same Sefer Orach Chaim, we're in chapter 211, and we're now on laws 3 through 5. So now let's see what we got. Heviu lefanav davar shebirchado bore pri ha'etz, excuse me, v'davar shebirchato she'akol. Let's say somebody brings you bore pri ha'etz and she'akol. What goes first? Bore pri ha'etz kodemet. First you go with ha'etz. Shehi hashuva she'ena poteret el davar echad. So why that is a more important blessing. Now here Maran gives us a very important insight. What makes a beracha more important than its friend? What makes one beracha more important than the other? So here what Maran teaches us is it's all about specificity. I think that's a word, yes. Right? And it's all about the more specific you are, then the more hashuv the beracha is. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz only covers bread. Bore priya gefen only covers wine. Those are our most important blessings. Bore priya etz, it's anything from a tree. Bore priya adama, anything from the ground. Shakol is everything. So it's less the less specific you get, the less important the blessing is. I always like to give a nice analogy for anybody here, right? Husbands, boyfriends, whatever it is. If a husband or a boyfriend tells you, "Oh, excuse me, oh, you look great." All right, thank you. Okay, you look great. Anybody can say you look great. If you say, "No, I love how," if a person says, "Wow, I love how you coordinated your sweater together with your nails and again that headband. Wow, what a match." So you were very specific in picking out something from the woman's outfit. That's a much better compliment than just saying, "Oh, you look great." Anybody could just say you look great. But again, if the person said, it's nice to always say that you look great. But if a person picks a specific thing from their ensemble, then that's a greater beracha. So you got to go with most specific first. So most specific first is going to be, let's say in this case, ha'etz. And once I go with ha'etz, over she'akol. V'chen bore priya, I'm over here, I'm highlighting with my cursor. V'chen bore priya adama v'she'akol. Same thing with bore priya adama. Bore priya adama goes first. That's easy. Note number 1 that we're covering today. If you have etz and she'akol or adama and she'akol, the excuse me, the etz or the she'akol goes first. Now, what about that's point number 1. Number 2, ve'im heviu lefanav bore priya etz u'bore priya adama. What happens if you have etz and adama together? Somebody brings you, again, like we said, pineapple or pineapple and pear. So again, Maran reiterates this and says, "Eze mehem sheyirtzeh yakdim." Whichever one they want comes first. Sorry, I had to hit the cough button. Right, so any one that you want comes first. Ve'yesh omrim, this is interesting. Ve'yesh omrim, some say that bore priya etz comes first. So we have a rule in Shulchan Aruch that what happens when I have a regular law without an author, and then I have Shulchan Aruch says, "Oh, and some people say that you should do this." Thank you. So do this, but some people say do that. So what do I follow? What you told me, or I follow what some people say? It's called the V'yesh Omrim. What do I do? Anybody here remember? I'm trying to see if there are any of my students here recently from Mag David. Only one here I could say is Sandy should probably know, but I don't want to put her on the spot. Sandy, you have any idea? If you remember, it's Stam v'yesh. Who's the halacha from? 50%. Stam or yesh? I don't know if she's there.
I'm here and I'm really trying to think.
Okay, so 50-50 shot. Stam v'yesh, the halacha is like the stam for Sfaradim. The stam means when they randomly put the halacha. So Maran was talking. He said, Borei pri ha'etz and borei pri ha'adama, eze mehem sheyirtzeh yakdim. Whichever one you want, that's the one that you put first. So what I highlighted, that's the stam. Maran is just talking. He's writing what he wants to say. But some people say, Borei pri ha'etz. Wow, thank you for period. Okay, so what do I follow? Do I follow what you just told me? Or do I follow what other people say? Some people say. So Sephardim follows Stam v'yesh, the halacha follows the Stam. And wouldn't you know it, what do the Ashkenazim do when it's Stam v'yesh? What do they say? Follow the Yesh Omrim. So now you can know why we're so different. Why could there just be one halacha? It's a matter of how you read the text. Same way how you have Democratic and Republican, liberal and conservative judges. They're reading the same Constitution. How could 5 guys say that it's constitutional, 4 guys say it's unconstitutional? It depends on how you read it. So every society has it. So us too, Stam v'yesh, halacha kestam. So that's why you'll see some Ashkenazim, they'll go and they'll put Borei pri ha'etz first, because there's the Yesh Omrim. Stam says whichever one you want. That's what we follow. Again, we all grew up, like we said, Magaesh, our Mora is teaching us, even my Mora, teaching me that it's going to be ha'etz first. But again, that's more the Ashkenazi side. It's nothing wrong with going ha'etz first as long as that's what you want. You should just know that that's what Maran says. Okay, good. Any questions on this? Okay, I think we did it. We did a good job with that. Good. The next seif, which is Dalit over here, also reminds us of of something we did in a previous class, where we said Kola Kodem Pasuk Eretz Chita U'Se'ora. So remember the song Eretz Chita U'Se'ora Gefen V'Tehena Rimon Eretz Zet Shemen U'Dvash. So whichever one of the 7 minim come first in that pasuk, that's closer to an Eretz, that comes first. So let's just go crazy. Let's say I had a plate with all of the fruits of the 7, all of the 5 fruits of the 7 species of Israel. What is the correct order? So since there's a second word of Eretz in the pasuk, when it says Zet Shemen Udvash, so olives come first, then dates, right? So olives, dates. Then you have Gefen, which is grapes. Te'ena is figs, and then pomegranates are last. So it's olives, dates, grapes, figs, pomegranates. That is the order. If you guys would like, what I could do is here just briefly, I'm going to throw this a little bit in the chat, and we'll just write the order. We got first is olives. Tell me if you guys saw something pop up. If you guys are in the chat, if you see olives. Nope. Right? Anybody? Okay, olives, dates, grapes, figs, pomegranates. Okay, that is the order. So in case anybody wants, you can just check it and look at it in the chat. Does anybody see that I wrote it or no? Okay, good. Thank you, Margie. All right. So good. Thanks, Talia. Okay, good. So we see that that's the order. So you have that order in case you want to know. That's the next thing that we learned. So let's summarize the 3 halachot so far that we did. Number 1 halacha is that if you have ayetz or adama together with shehakol, so which comes first, the ayetz or the adama? If you have the ayetz and adama together, which one goes first? So like we said, for Sfaradim, it's whichever one you want. If it's Ashkenazim, you go with ha'etz. Halacha number 3, if I had all the 5 fruits in the 7 species, what's the order? So again, we'll just remind everybody, olives, dates, grapes, figs, and pomegranates. Now let's go back to the screen. Any questions on this? Okay. Let's go back to the screen share. Sorry. All right. Margie, sorry, because you're the only one I can see. Give me a thumbs up if you're back to the screen. Good. Sorry. Okay. So now we're going to go to the Ramah. Now, a lot of times when we have the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isarlis, he was the Ashkenazi posek of the obviously the Ashkenazim, and written on the daf of Shulchan Aruch. Many times we won't disagree with him. Just sometimes he'll add something and we happen to follow it. That happens here too. So Ramah says, Vedavka, specifically, I'm over here, I'm just going to highlight. Vedavka she'ochel anavim kemot shehen. This is specifically talking about when you eat grapes as is. Aval im asa mehem yain shekovea beracha la'atzmo bore pri hagefen hashuva. If the grapes, right, are in grape form, then they are bore pri ha'etz. But if they are wine, then they come first no matter what. So you may have thought, let's say I have fruits, but I'm also having wine. Right? We're going out for, let's say, some drinks, and I also have fruit there too. So you might have thought, okay, what's first, gefen or the fruits? The fruits are borei pri ha'etz. So therefore, since the gefen, again, like we said, it has a specific blessing, and the grapes were turned into something that was more hashub, more important, you'll say the beracha on your wine first, borei pri hagefen, and then you'll say borei pri ha'etz on whatever is there. What's the one thing that comes before gefen? So hamotzi or mezonot. So it says here, ava maaseh kedera. Maaseh kedera literally means something that you cooked in a pot. Mehameshet mine dagan, from the 5 types of grains. Hi hashuva yoter mibirkat hayayin. That comes first before the wine. So if I have wine on the table and I have bread on the table, what comes first? The bread and not the wine. What is the obvious question that we are going to ask right now?
Kiddush, no?
Excellent, very good. Talia, yes, say, what's the problem with Kiddush, Talia?
We say hagefen first before hamotzi.
Great, excellent. So therefore, what do we do? And this is the reasoning of why we do this. What do we do to the bread?
What do you mean?
Rini, I see you got the answer. What do you got? Let's ask her to unmute.
You cover it.
Excellent, very good. So we cover the bread at our table on Friday night, specifically because we don't want it to look embarrassing to the bread. Remember, we say embarrassed, the bread's face is not going to turn red, right? We're not hurting the bread's feelings. But what that means, when the rabbis say that you're embarrassing the bread, you're not giving the bread its respect that it deserves. Bread should always come first before hagefen. But because the rabbis instituted, they said, we have to make a nice ceremony. How did people used to make ceremonies back then? They would raise a glass. Kos Yeshuot Esa Ubshem Adonai Ekra. Raise up the glass of salvation and call out to Hashem. So since the way that people used to do it was with a glass of wine, but this is also a situation where you have to have bread. What did the rabbis say to do? They said, no, you have to have kiddush on the wine. That should come first. First make kiddush. You have to, before we set up the meal, we have to have before we set up the meal, we have to actually be mekadesh Shabbat. We have to make Shabbat holy. Now, once we make Shabbat holy, now we can have the meal. So, but I can't have the bread and the wine right next to each other. Then I'm violating this halakha. You're having these two things in front of you, and you're going with the wine first. So we cover it, and then it's as if the bread is not there. It's as if the bread is not on the table. So why don't we just leave the bread inside? So we make sure that we want to say, also we want to commemorate at the festive meal. We know the bread is coming, and we want the bread to be outside on the table with have a outside covering, a top covering with the cover, and a bottom covering with the tablecloth. And we have that because we want to make sure that it mimics what the man was. The man. Why do we have two pieces of bread on Shabbat? Because the man came down in a double portion. So we have the two pieces, and then the Torah also says that the man was covered on top and on the bottom. So the man is a central miracle that we commemorate every Shabbat. Okay, questions on this? Questions or comments on this? Anybody? Okay, good. So now let's go back. We're here. Halakha hadechita v'seora kodmin davka k'she'asa me'en tavshil opat. Meaning, when do wheat and barley come first before? Because they do come first in the pasuk. When do they come first before any of these items? Only when they are in their cooked form. When they're cooked in a dish, or they are in a bread. Pat is bread. Aval hakoses hita. Who remembers when I told you about koses? Koses means to crunch. From the sound koses, kas, 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 the sound your teeth makes on it. So if you were to just chew a wheat kernel, shebirchato bore peri adama. Remember we said that on the Ezekiel bread class, because the beracha is only bore peri adama in that case. Ena kodemet the birchat bore peri ha'etz. Right? It says if you have grapes and raw wheat, you're going to say, Rabbi, look in the pasuk, eretz chita useora. So wheat or barley comes first, even if I want to chew on it. It's before the grapes. Rama corrects you, and we hold this way. It only comes before the grapes if the beracha is mizonot, which is either you baked it into a cake or a cookie, or you cooked it into something like oatmeal, or you made it into a pasta. But if it retains its form of borei pri adama, then you don't put that before borei pri ha'etz of the grapes. Okay, good? Excellent. Now that Rama closes over here and says, Birchat hamotzi kodem lebirkat borei minei mezonot. You have to say, if you have something that is hamotzi or mezonot, you have to say hamotzi. And obviously it goes before anything else. Now we know once you say hamotzi, it takes care of anything else that is eaten together with bread. That's what we're going to get to. This is a setup to the rest of the class, which obviously it's going to be a 2 to 3 parter for next week and the week after. But the point is that if I have a cookie and I have a deli sandwich first, I got to eat the deli sandwich and say hamotzi. I have to pick the hamotzi first, and it'll cover anything else that is eaten with bread. Okay? Now, that's this first part. Second part is let's say something that the Rama crosses into something that is mixed. So let's say I have pasta and meat sauce. So the meat sauce would be shakol, and the pasta is mizonot. So what do? If it's mixed together, I gotta pick something. So do I separate a big meatball, and do I take some pasta, say mizonot, then take a meatball and say shakol? Or there's something about eating a mixture together. So obviously we're going to see that there is something about a mixture together. Let's finish this. Let's say again, he just reminds us that anybody who has two things in front of them, like we've been saying, grapes, wheat, barley, oats, peach, it's only if you want to eat both things. You're never forced to eat anything you don't want to eat. וכל זה צריך להקדים, היינו דווקא לכתחילה. אבל אם עבר ובירך על השני, אם ברכות שוות, יוצא ואין צריך לחזור לברך על זה, אפשר להקדים ובלבד, שיהיה דעתו גם כן עליו בברכתו, שיהיה דעתו גם כן עליו בברכתו. And then finally, he closes and says, let's say I messed up, and I said the other thing first, then of course, you go back and let's say I had grapes and I had pineapple. Sorry, bad example. I have grapes and an apple. I said Borei Priya Etz on the apple. You don't go back and say beracha again on the grapes, as long as you had them in mind in the beginning. If you didn't have them in mind and then they came mysteriously, then of course you would, but you don't have to waste and say another beracha. And obviously, if let's say you had apples and pineapple with Sfaradim, take whichever one you want, but it says we should really try to do what's Haviv, if you can. So and he met what he loves more, he or she loves more, and you know what? They messed up. Now you go back. You have to say Borei Priya Adama. You have to say Borei Priya Etz on the one that you left off on the side. But again, you don't have to do so if you had in mind and it was the same beracha. Okay. Any questions on this?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, Margie.
It's not exactly on this. It's what you said before about the mixtures.
Sure, no problem.
So I was wondering, why wouldn't you say a separate beracha on a meatball and pasta? Isn't the goal to say as many berachot as possible?
Excellent. Great point. It is to say as many berachot, but they have to be necessary berachot. If I went with that logic, I would say, hey, take a water bottle, say shakol niyavad baro on every sip. Right? That'd be awesome. If the berachot are very specific to limiting once you cover the items. So the rabbis struggled and they said something that's eaten together. Is that something that I had that gets two blessings or one? Let's take an easier example where I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Do I scoop out the peanut butter from the sandwich and say, well, we learned peanut butter could maybe be Adama, right? But let's say if I scoop that, I'm never going to scoop out the jelly and eat that. That's not how I eat it.
Right.
So if something is just one cereal and milk, so that's what we're leading up to now, which this class was obviously a setup for the next class, where now I'm saying if I have cereal and milk. So we went over last time the berachot on cereals. Now, that's how I eat it. I have my cereal and I mix milk in it. And even if I want to drink the milk after, is there only milk in there? Many cereals have residue and some flakes in it. I don't know. So what's going to be the blessing on spaghetti and meat sauce? What? Rice and chicken. Right? So
I would say two berachot. That's what I do.
Okay, so we're going to see there are going to be some situations where you would say two berachot. Certain soups, right, that have, let's say we said the fruit salad, that have very large chunks, right, where it's impossible to eat them in one bite, together. But we're going to see that a dish that's eaten together, like spaghetti and meat sauce, spoiler alert, that's going to be mizonot. Right, even if the meatball is large, right, because that's how you're eating it together. And let's say I said mizonot, and my last bite is just a meatball. Even in that case, we're going to bring the source is going to say that you don't say shakol. It's part of the dish that you had.
Rabbi, what about an acai bowl?
Yeah, sorry, what about it? What do you mean? Meaning
it has granola, and it has smoothie, and it has fruit and peanut butter.
Right, great. So what we're going to say, sorry, this is Marcel talking. I just have to see.
Yes.
Yeah, good. So what I have to see is that we're gonna. I don't want to answer the question 100%, but you're gonna either have to go by if there's mizonot in it. Let's say there's cooked granola, so you're gonna have to say mizonot on the whole thing, and the mizonot is there for taste. Then you're gonna say mizonot. If it's a combination of ha'etz and adama, and it's impossible to pick what you like the best out of the acai bowl, then you're gonna say sha'akol. If it's majority etz, you're going to say ha'etz. If it's majority adama, you're going to say adama. And if it's not majority, it's even, but you're eating it because you love the adama part, then you're going to say that. That's a mouthful, but I'm saying we're going to have to go through each and every step next week's class.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay, Marcel?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, good. Anybody else have a question? Okay, guys. Linda, you have one? Sorry.
I'm thinking.
You're thinking.
So for the spaghetti and meat sauce example, and then you have, let's say, water. So would you say, like, so you would say mizonot on the noodles,
No,
and
not on the noodles. Shakol on the. But no, but I could take a bite. I could take meatball in the bite that with my pasta.
right? So you could just have in mind. So you don't even have to have in mind when you're drinking the water that you're also saying it for the meatball.
Correct. Because when I already have the pasta and meat sauce, that's the dish. So I'm saying mizonot. It's covering the meatball, and then I have shakol. I don't need a shakol on the meatball because the meatball is part of the pasta.
Right. And what about like a yabra or machi? It has
Right. So that's we're gonna have to. So we're gonna that's gonna be next week because we're gonna have to talk about what's the main part.
right. All right. It's gonna be recorded.
Yeah, I try to record everything. Are you getting the recordings in the chat or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes.
All right. Thanks, Rabbi.
Okay, guys, stay safe with the snowstorm. And does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, sorry, who's talking? I'm just trying.
Sandy.
Sandy?
Yeah.
Okay, what's up, Sandy?
Okay, so just a question. The pasta and the meatballs, are you saying mezonot on the pasta because mezonot comes before shakol, or because you like pasta better?
No, because mizonot comes before shakol. That we're trying to say mizonot. Mizonot that's there for taste is always more important than anything else.
Okay.
So I'll give you a
there's
question.
more meatball than pasta.
It doesn't make a difference. So you're right. When we're not, once we're mezonot makes it easy. When it's mezonot from one of the 5 grains, then what you're doing is that you're automatically saying mezonot as long as the mezonot is there for taste. I'll give you the example: ice cream sandwich or a flying saucer. Most people like that because I'm having ice cream, but you're also having cookie. Is the flying saucer cookie there for taste or just to hold the ice cream?
I feel like both, but like people like the taste of the cookie.
Excellent. So your beracha on a flying saucer is mezonot.
Okay.
If I just have an ice cream cone and I'm just licking the ice cream off, then it's shakol.
Oh, like if you don't enjoy the cone, it's
exactly
there.
the cone is there to hold it. You understand the cone? Now, if you ever go to like Pier Village and you get these souped up cones that like the cone is like a meal, so if you're liking the cone, then say mezonot and then take a lick and a bite of the thing all at once. You know what I'm saying? And then go back to just licking the ice cream. You don't have to say shakol and then mezonot. We're going to see that example also.
Okay, and then that shakol covers anything else. Like even though you're not saying actual shakol, you're covered for shakol for anything else you're gonna have with the meal.
No, then meaning you say be specific. Meaning, let's say I have if I had spaghetti and meatballs, right?
Yeah.
So now my mezonot, it's essentially what's happening is the meatball is being absorbed, quote unquote, into the pasta. And meaning the pasta and the meatballs now becomes one dish that the beracha is mezonot. Now you want to have a drink of soda, you have to say shakol.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, Linda, kavod.
So let's say you don't know, meaning let's say you have the ice cream cone and the ice cream, and you're not sure, is it bad to say shahakol and then when you get up to the cone say mezonot?
It's not bad. You have what to rely on. But if you know you're going to eat the cone, you should just and it's part of the ice cream, then you should just say mezonot.
Meaning,
like people are eating like this waffles and ice cream on top.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're eating the waffles and the ice cream together, correct?
Correct.
So that whole thing is mezonot.
So interesting. So an ice cream cone from the ice cream store with ice cream, you say mezonot?
If I'm eating the cone, I know I'm eating the cone beforehand, and that's part of this dish, I just say mezonot on it. You do have what to rely on to say, but then think about it. You're going to say mezonot first, take a bite of the cone, then say shakol, and then take a lick of the ice cream.
Meaning you normally lick the ice cream first. You're not.
I understand, but now you have a problem. Now you're separating the item, so now you're going to have. We just learned if I have mezonot first and then shakol, what goes first?
Mezonot.
Right. Even worse, because if you say shakol, you might even have a safek that you already covered the ice cream cone. Because you said shakol. Shakol covers everything. So you got to be careful if you're going to separate that.
So you're saying to say mezonot, eat the cone, and then eat the ice cream?
If you must separate the berachot. What I try to do is eat a little bit of cone. I try to position myself where I take a bite of the cone and the ice cream at once. Same as Onot.
Got it. And also, from before you said if you have Adama and Etz, fruit, two different fruits. We don't follow Magaesh.
So Magaesh is for Ashkenazim, right? We follow, like we were trying to say, that if you have Adama and Ha'etz in front of you, you take whichever one you want.
You want. Got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Everybody good? Okay, guys. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Take care.